KBVC, KBVC, KBVC. Way guys, we are talking. It's the third month of the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who, and that means only one thing. We're talking the Third Doctor. This is the Third Doctor's first story, Spearhead in Space. He, of course, was. Let's see if I can pull this up where I can actually see it. He was played by Jon Pertwee, right there, tapping him on the nose and the eye or whatever. Oh, there's a nice photo of him. All his dramatic flair. 1970 to 1974. Yeah. And see, I've probably mentioned this before, but I like that they had put the banner on the bottom there to let you know when his time was. And also the other thing I like about it is it says story number 51. So there were 50 stories, Doctor Who stories, not episodes, because each story is more than one episode of Doctor Who before Jon Pertwee came on, and it was the 1970s, and it was in color. Woo! Color, no more black and white. Which makes my 13-year-old happy because he's not a fan of the black and white. Although I don't think he minds it too much. Jon Pertwee, the third Doctor. I got 3 there. How many 3? The third Doctor from 1970 to 1974. He did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. Yep, 5 series. 24 stories and 128 episodes. Did I mark how many the others did? Patrick Troughton. Nope, I sure didn't. I should start doing that. Let's do a big comparison. Why not? Why not just do a big comparison of all the doctors? I mean, everybody's interested in that, right? All the people who are interested in that have already figured that out themselves. So basically, when the second Doctor regenerated, I don't think I talked about this. So it was the first introduction of the Time Lords in the series, the last story of Patrick Troughton, the War Games. He ends up having to go to the Time Lords for help, and they end up exiling him to Earth and forcing him to regenerate and not allowing him to pick his face. But in all fairness, he was like, oh, I don't want that face. Nah, I don't want that face. That one's too chubby. That one's too thin, sort of thing. So then his first episode, Spearhead in Space, he ends up back on Earth, and he ends up with his old pal, Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, who he had met at the second Doctor, and his team of UNIT. And this is really where UNIT comes into full display. If you like UNIT, you'll like the third Doctor, because they're in there quite a bit. First couple of seasons is 65. So the first 15 stories of the third Doctor mainly take place on Earth and have to do with UNIT. So let's see. Companions. They have Liz Shaw. I can't remember who played Liz Shaw right now at this very second. Carolyn John played Liz Shaw right there. And then Joe Grant is played by Katie Manning. Don't look at that Star Wars thing. As you can see right there, Katie Manning. I guess I'm not going to go through the internet and find photos of them because I'm putting them up right here. Bam. There's the third Doctor. Bad guy Omega. 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 I missed it last month to say OMGGA. Oh my giddy aunt. OMGA. OMGA. I don't know why that hasn't, Doctor Who fans, all you Whovians haven't made that your, instead of OMG, OMGA. And then Sarah Jane Smith, third assistant companion. I mean, really, for the third Doctor, where he actually has like a laboratory, he has an assistant who helps him with his lab. And the first one, Liz, was an actual scientist, and she lasted only a season. And then they brought Joe on, Katie Manning, played by Joe Grant. Joe Grant, played by Katie Manning. Which, if you meet or ever see Katie Manning, there doesn't seem to be much difference between the two. I mean, obviously, one's a part, one's not. But I feel like Katie Manning really put a lot of herself in Joe Grant. And then the third one was Sarah Jane Smith, played by Elizabeth Sladen. And she, obviously, if you don't know, we'll find out next month, goes on with the fourth Doctor. A lot of people's favorite companions. I think the best combination is the third Doctor and Joe, and I am partial to unit stories. So stories with the Brigadier, which I showed a better picture of earlier, but there's the Brigadier and Sergeant Benton and Captain Yates and other random people. I enjoy the unit stories. They I believe the stunt team, a lot of things happened in the 70s. One of the things was a stunt team called Havoc, I believe, memory serves, got heavily involved. And so you would always have these unit soldiers running around and explosions and firefights and real fun stuff like that going on all over the place. Falls, falls off of oil rigs, falls off of bridges, and then you'd always get the stories of the guy dressing up like Katie Manning in his little short skirt trying to climb up ladders and stuff like that, which is kind of funny. And I really like the interaction between the Brigadier and the third Doctor, and of course Katie Manning is so sweet and endearing, and she kind of encompasses what I think of if I think of like a 70s lady, like how they acted and stuff. Yeah, I would picture her. Good old Katie. And there's a lot of great stories. I didn't make a story. I didn't do my favorite story this year, this time for this month. Um, Again, but I don't have any new Third Doctor stories to watch, even though I've got the Blu-ray here, which was brand new sometime within the last year. But I've watched all of the DVDs. What I chose to watch, I feel like I'm skipping around again. Little bit. I mean, you might have already guessed. What I chose to watch was the 10th anniversary special. The Three Doctors. There they all are together. Jon Pertwee and Patrick Troughton and William Hartnell. Got a 3-for-1 special this time. It's the 10th anniversary special. So at the 60th anniversary, why not talk about the 10th anniversary? Why not? And I got the Blu-ray that has it on there, as you saw earlier. So that's what I watched for this time. My first time experience with Jon Pertwee would have been in the 80s, watching it on PBS. It would have been either in between or around the same time as, started with the fourth Doctor and then moved on. And I would have either moved on to the third Doctor or the fifth Doctor, because I don't quite remember when I started watching. Like I said, I feel like the 20th anniversary, 1983, I feel like that was a live event. Or semi-live event for us. But I mean, I know that generally new episodes from England took about a year before they came to America, so I can't quite say that. I just know that they pushed it really hard. That it was the 25th anniversary or 20th anniversary special, 5 Doctors, and that the first episode of Doctor Who that they showed was Robot, the fourth Doctor, the first fourth Doctor episode, which has got to be really weird. I don't remember it. I don't know if anybody out there has ever started at a regeneration. So like the first episode of the first of a Doctor, And it's been too long for me to actually remember what was going on. But you like basically starts off with the Doctor regenerating from the third to fourth Doctor. And if you've never watched Doctor Who before, you'd be kind of like, "What's going on here? What is this?" Luckily, things move on so quickly that it doesn't matter. It's not a big plot point. One thing they did with the spearhead from space, they didn't show the regeneration from the second to third Doctor. Basically, the second Doctor you see floating away in a vortex, and then the TARDIS lands on Earth. Third Doctor comes, steps out, gets shot in the head, because why not? Why not? I couldn't find the last episode, Planet of Spiders, so this is the latest episode I have, story I have, 73. So, is this the last one? I don't know. I gotta pull out that. I have that on a page, so I can just pop that up and look see for myself. So that's the one right before 73. So 74. I guess I said that already. It wasn't 24 stories, 24 stories, 128 episodes. Anywho, The Three Doctors is one of my favorite stories. It's great. I mean, it's the interplay. I'll get into it, but it's one of the great stories. I would say I have a soft spot in my heart for the Sea Devils, although I remember kind of making fun of it when we were watching it back in the 80s, because the Sea Devils kind of watch over. If I can get a screenshot of it, I'll show it to you. Anyway, they were kind of hunched over, and so we kind of made fun of them as being like a Groucho Marx walk. Didn't have a scar; they had a little disc weapon thing. I think I totally lost track what I was saying. I got distracted, and so the first time, I don't know when the first time I watched the third Doctor was. I know I started with the fourth Doctor, moved on, and if we were watching the fourth Doctor, and I feel like he would have been well into like his last seasons, or maybe second to last season, when we started watching his first season. So there might not have been a time, but I know definitely like in the fifth Doctor era, we caught up with it. So that's possible that in between the fourth Doctor and the fifth Doctor, we got the third Doctor thrown in there. It's also possible that whenever we got caught up with the newer season, and since we were like a year behind, they would have gone back and started with the third, just restarted the whole series over, starting from Spearhead in Space, and then moving onwards to whatever the latest season is. Mind blowing to me later to find out that people in England had the one chance to watch it and never saw it again, unless there was a random repeat during the summer of old episodes. And here I am, a kid in rural Nebraska, watching full Doctor Who stories every Saturday morning. Sometimes they did break them down to be like just the episodes for a while, like Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Something like that. Because I remember it being sometime, or maybe it was only once a week still, but I remember it being sometime close to when dinner was, and I was all like, I'm not eating until this is over, or I was eating real fast so I could go watch it. I do remember that, but mostly I remember watching it. Well, it was either Saturday or Sunday, late morning, watching Doctor Who. And it would have been this series. And I know they showed it again later because we have most of these recorded off of on VHS. All of the third Doctor stories have been found, I believe. I know, I can't remember. I watched it But the invasion of the dinosaurs, the first episode of that was thrown out because to hold off the secret or the wow moment at the end of episode 1 where the dinosaur shows up, they just called it Invasion. There's a second Doctor story where the Cybermen invade called Invasion. So there was a mix up and it got thrown out too. But it's been found. I believe I remember watching it on the DVD. I can solve that real quick. I lied. I can't because it skips from the Green Death to the Time Warrior there. So there's another box somewhere. I got boxes and boxes all over the place. Someday it will be all unboxed. Hopefully by the time the 75th anniversary comes around. Or 70th. 60th. 60th is what I meant. No, this is the 60th. Doesn't it feel like the 50th was just a couple years ago? Kind of feels that way to me. Most of this feels like people tell me, "Oh, the 90s were 20 years ago." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And 2020 really didn't help anything. Anyway, so I know I watched most of them because I have most of them on VHS, recorded off of PBS, the Public Broadcast System. Probably why I like the Third Doctor so much was because I'd be able to watch him over and over again, because I would record it off of VHS and then I would watch them during the week, during the coming month. Well, probably not. I would probably record a tape. Hopefully I can dig them out and I'll show them to you. And I probably wouldn't. I could have watched them throughout the week, but I probably waited until the whole tape was full before I dared rewind to watch something because I'd be worried about it being recorded over. And this was something my brother and I would do, and we both parents were nice enough to buy us blank VHS tapes. Although I think we lost a couple episodes to golf or football being taped over. So I bet there are plenty of people my age, who had one of their favorite shows recorded over by either golf or football. I'm going to bet that's happened. That's not a unique experience to my family. I had Spearhead in Space, Doctor Who and the Silurians, The Ambassadors of Death, Inferno, which would be my vote for my favorite Doctor Who story. Is the top 3 would Inferno is in there. If you're talking favorite Third Doctor stories, Inferno is going to be in there. And if you don't know, it's a parallel story. The Doctor trapped on Earth, trying to figure out how to work his TARDIS again, because the Time Lords have put mental blocks in his head, and so he doesn't remember how to travel in time, and they've ruined his dimensional circuit or whatever. And he's messing with his TARDIS, and there's drawing power, and it somehow gets sucked off to a parallel. And he somehow gets taken away to a parallel universe, and he meets evil version of Unit. So, and it's just one of those classic stories, like the Mirror story from Star Trek, where all your favorite people, besides the one leading person, are evil now. That's just a nice little twist to it. And it was the last episode. It was the 4th episode in that first season, so you got to know everybody beforehand. So it wasn't like, who are these people that I don't even know or care about, kind of thing. Terror of the Autons, The Mind of Evil, I have being on video, but I don't really remember The Mind of Evil except watching it on DVD. So I question that Mind of Evil X saying that it was on VHS. But the Claws of Axos were a big one too, to watch Colony of Space. The Demons is the other one that would be like Inferno and the demons fighting it out for top spot. Day of the Daleks was a good story. Curse of the Paladon. Sea Devils was also one that was really drawn to. The Mutants was, besides it being young at the time, I didn't really quite get the whole apartheid trappings that were involved in that story. It was a fun story, and it was, the Third Doctor, his doctor, besides being a very action man and very, I'm going to find a vehicle and ride it and drive it, because that was kind of Jon Pertwee's things. He loved vehicles, all kinds of things. So, the Third Doctor would jump on an ATV, he'd jump on a hovercraft, he'd jump on, a speedboat, a small airplane, glider, or whatever he could fit into the story. Pertwee loved that stuff, so his Third Doctor did it, which really helped with the action packedness. That's English. And of the series, Time Monster, I had the Three Doctors. I had on VHS, along with Carnival of Monsters, Frontier in Space, Planet of the Daleks, and The Green Death. So I had pretty much all of it up until when Sarah Jane joined. Really, I didn't have any of Sarah Jane's. No, I had two of Sarah Jane's on VHS. Invasion of the Dinosaurs, which at the time, I think I just thought I started recording it late, and so missed the first episode of it, not knowing that I'm pretty sure they just showed the last 3 episodes. I think it's a 4-parter, but they showed the last 3 episodes, not showing the fourth. I think when I read the Target novelization, I was really confused about what was going on. Anyway, but Death to the Daleks was also one. That was a fun watch. I know I watched Planet of the Spiders, because I have acrophobia, so I know I watched it. And maybe because of that acrophobia, I was like, we're not gonna tape this one for posterity. Got it on DVD, though. I'll get it on Blu-ray when it comes out. So that tells you what my core Pertwee was really the Katie Manning, Jon Pertwee, Nicholas Courtney, and the rest of Unit. Sergeant Benton, John Levine, and Mike Yates. It's just fun stuff. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it all. I think that has mostly to do with the executive producer. What do they call them? What do they call them over there? Just producer. Producer Barry Letts and script editor Terrence Dix were a great pairing. I think they work really well together, and their stories are fun and action-packed, and Pertwee's characterization of the Doctor, he's the elite scientist, a bit snobby and too smart for his own good, but he's also funny, not in the same way as Patrick Troughton. I think because Jon Pertwee came from, I don't think he was doing vaudeville, but it was like a comedy style trappings. He was very much interested in playing his Doctor very straight. So even though there was humor in there, and there's a couple of gag faces, pulled faces, I don't know what it's called, but mugging. There is some mugging. Give me your money. No. It'd be like if I was the Doctor in the story. But Jon Pertwee is great as the Doctor, and all of his companions were great. It was a great ensemble, and I think it really worked. And I don't know why later they were like, oh, we can only have 1, maybe 2 companions. There's a lot of that complaining later. Okay, I kind of already listed the stories, but we're listening to the monsters. That's an awesome intro. I don't know what you're commenting about. First thing we got the Silurian. No, not the Silurians. They're the second ones. The Autons controlling plastic, the mannequins with the hands that pop down and fire. They first appeared here. Were in 2, and then I don't think they appeared until the new series. And then we introduced the Silurians, which kind of was it's the base under siege story, but instead of the alien coming to Earth and invading, it's the alien was always here, buried underground, which I always found interesting and really enjoyed the Silurians, which they didn't come back to until the 5th Doctor, but then they introduced their cousins, the Sea Devils, the Groucho Marx Sea Devils. And now the big thing that they introduced here was one of the things that Barry Letts and Terry Dix were like, Terry, can I call you Terry? Terrence Dix decided, since we're trapped on Earth and we have to tell Earthbound stories, let's have a Moriarty character to Pertwee's Sherlock Holmes. So they created the Master, appeared in the first episode and story of the 2nd season of the 3rd Doctor. First story, 2nd season, 3rd Doctor. The Master, who is another Time Lord, but instead of being interested in exploring and seeing and helping the universe, galaxy, whatever, he wants to enslave it and control it, so it's all his. I am the Master. The Master. Should have shaved. Should have had a goatee to be the Master. And he was played all throughout the 3rd Doctor by Roger Delgado. He was a great actor, great performance, but because of their idea with him, he gets brought in a lot because he's in the Terror of the Autons, the Mind of Evil, the Claws of Axos, the Colonies in Space, the Demons. I think every story of that season has a Master story in it. And he comes back in the Sea Devils and the Mutants, the Time Monster. Not in the 3 Doctors. I don't know why. And then Frontier in Space is the last time we see Roger Delgado as the Master. So, how many is that one? That's 9. I just count my pinky bean down and should know that that's 9 stories with the Master in it. And he was going to be there for Planet of Spiders or whatever was going to be beforehand, but unfortunately a traffic accident ended his life. Maybe shortly after Frontier in Space. I can't remember, just that he was filming a movie abroad in like Spain or someplace and unfortunately passed away. But it was just that one actor the whole time for the 3rd Doctor. And then we don't see the Master again until the 4th Doctor, but he's in the 4th Doctor, the 5th Doctor, the 6th Doctor, 7th Doctor, 10th Doctor. I guess there's no Master for the 11th Doctor, 12th Doctor, and 13th Doctor. All deal with a form of the Master, or Missy, the Mistress, whichever. Lasting character that was introduced by Terrence Dix and Barry Letts. The Daleks show up twice. The Day of the Daleks and the Death to the Daleks. No Cybermen. The Ice Warriors appear again, and I believe both of the Paladon stories. So I mean, the Paladon's reoccurring. Alpha Centauri, who was actually made a cameo reappearance in a 12th Doctor, 11th Doctor. I can't remember which story it was. Sorry, guys, take away my Whovian card. Anyway, they're in both the Monster Paladon stories. So they're carried on twice there. I always like the Ice Warriors. Even though they talk slow. Sea Devils I already talked about. Mutants. The Demons is a big one where it kind of has the lore of these ancient creatures who are mistaken, or not mistaken, but people believe are gods later on in life or whatever. The cultures at the time saw their highly advanced technology, considered it magic, and considered them gods. I would have to watch them back to back to be able to tell you which one I like better, Inferno or the Demons. The Demons got the Master in it. It's got all of Unit, and it's got Katie Manning instead of Liz Shaw. Katie Manning, I use her actress's name, Carolyn John. Uh, I mean, I like Liz. I think she's a great character. Jo has such an earnestness to her. It makes me like her just slightly more. Let's see. Mostly the Master. The Master. You got the giant maggots. Only one story with the giant maggots, and they weren't even the bad guy. There was a spoiler computer that was taking over the world, kind of thing. And then you get the spiders who were mind controlling people coming back. There was this like running gag in the Third Doctor where he'd be like, "Hey, you want to go check out Metabellus 3 where it's pretty and so nice?" And then he goes, and then so like they never make it. And then the last story, he makes it there, and he gets attacked by. Well, actually, that was the Green Death. He makes it there. Katie Manning doesn't go with him. Jo doesn't go with him in the Green Death, and he comes back with this blue crystal, and then weird stuff happens with the blue crystal. So then the spiders use it to come back and try and take over Earth, or I forget their end goal there, but there it was. But that's the monsters in it, and there are some base under siege stories. There's always base under siege stories in Doctor Who, and I don't think they talk about that at all. But because they were mostly on Earth, they were able to open it up, and they were trying to be like a little bit into the future because England has a space program and technology is more advanced than, what was really available in 1970s, the early half of the 1970s. All right, Doctor ranking. I mean, I really enjoy him, but he's still I still like the second Doctor more than the third Doctor. So he's really kind of in the middle. He's switched around with the other Doctors. So he's going to be like fifth, sixth, or seventh is where he's going to be. So somewhere in the middle of the pack, but higher up in the middle of the pack. But that might go down. Like right now, I would put him probably at fifth. But that might go down after I watch some of those other Doctors that are, and that I really like, but aren't like the ones that I really like. And I think the companion is him and Jo, and probably the Unit family. It's going to be the Unit family with Jo Grant and the third Doctor, which is perfect for the story that I picked to watch, which was the 10th anniversary, The Three Doctors. I'm going to go ahead and read the back of the DVD, even though I watched the Blu-ray. That's the whole season. It's a Blu-ray of the whole season. Complete season 4 of the third Doctor, which was really, I shrunk that window down. Season 9 or season 10. Season 10 of Doctor Who overall. But the way they're selling the Blu-rays is they're, by Doctor and then by their season. So that's how they did that. And because it's the whole season, there's just a blurb for the thing there. So it's not all there. So I'll read the DVD. Doctor Who, starring Jon Pertwee, Patrick Troughton, and William Hartnell in The Three Doctors by Bob Baker and Dave Martin. The Bristol Boys, I think, is what Terrence Dicks always referred to them as. I could be wrong. Could be the wrong England town I'm thinking of there. But it was had that alliteration of BB, just like Bob Baker, who would later go on to, well, with Dave, he would create a famous dog, K9, in the Doctor Who series. And then Wallace and Gromit, he helped write the first one of those. Maybe more, I can't remember. But forever tied in to both of those. The Doctor and unit are called upon to investigate strange events surrounding Dr. Tyler's research into cosmic rays. Unit HQ comes under attack by an alien force, and the Doctor has no other option but to call on the Time Lords for help. The Time Lords too are under attack. The Time Lords too are under attack. From a mysterious power emerging from a black hole in space. With power reserves failing, the only way they can help the Doctor is to break the first law of time and allow him to help himself. The first and second Doctors are lifted out of their time streams and sent to Earth to help the third. Between the three of them, they must find a solution to the threat that not only endangers Unit and Earth, but also the future of the Time Lords themselves. From Omega, Stephen Thorne as Omega. I still have that. I didn't send in my questionnaire card on this one. They didn't hear from me this time. Sorry, guys. 2003. So 20 years ago, this disc came out for the 40th anniversary? No, it says 2004 on the disc. So not quite. It would have made sense for it to come out for the 40th anniversary. But it didn't. So there. They did whatchamacallit instead, I think. I don't remember if Spearhead in Space was one of the first ones they did or not. 2001. I mean, they released 3 DVDs when they started bringing them out on DVD. And I believe it was Spearhead from Space, the 5 Doctors, and the 4th Doctor story. Maybe the Robots of Death? Maybe that was it? I don't know. Oh, but I got my... Let's buy Doctor Who stuff. There's K9. Affirmative. And some Daleks. And there's the Sea Devils, if I didn't get that screenshot or thing. And then you got your Cybermen. I never had any of these toys. I thought they didn't look that great. Sorry to say. So I never had any of these guys. But yeah, and then this was, I would have thought not that long after they started writing these, but they got a ton of, then you can order the paperback BBC original novels, and then there's the audio books of the missing series. 3 ways to order. Get Destiny of the Daleks, which I never got. What did I got that? Vote. Which Doctor Who stories do you want to see on DVD? What extras would you put on a Doctor Who DVD? Vote for your favorite. That is something I don't think I ever did. I think I might possibly remember doing that. But by the time when these were coming out, I was living in Albuquerque in a little studio apartment, dealing with roaches and stuff. I didn't have internet. Let's see. But I did get the scripts, volume 1, and I'm kind of sad they never did. And Book of Monsters. I don't know if I got that or if the cover just looks really familiar to me. But this really living in that little studio apartment and the DVDs coming out and being able to go live in a place where there was a Barnes and Noble, a Borders. I was actually able to go and buy Doctor Who books, Doctor Who magazines at the comic book store, um, Nobles, Comic, Albuquerque, New Mexico. It really was a time, and it reignited my love of Doctor Who. Anyway, that's just a little fun down memory lane. That's our Doctor. Okay, so I enjoy this story, and it's basically forgotten Time Lord Omega who helped cause the science behind it is that he turned a supernova into a black hole, and he was a solar engineer and took that energy and sent it to Gallifrey. Oops, sorry, Will, to make it so they had power to travel through time. And in the process, got stuck there himself. In order for him to leave, he has to find another Time Lord to take his place so he can escape. He chooses the Doctor for some unknown reason. Maybe because he's not on Gallifrey. Maybe because he can't escape or defend himself because he doesn't have his time traveling knowledge. I don't know. It's kind of a cheat, whatever, but it's a great story. What makes the story so great is the interaction between Patrick Troughton and Jon Pertwee, who apparently didn't get along well on set, mainly because Patrick Troughton was like, yeah, I got the gist of it, and he would, say what he was supposed to say, but not the same way every time. And Jon Pertwee was very much we got to say what we're going to say when we're going to say it. And so they had conflicts. Unfortunately, William Hartnell, this might have been like it might have been the last thing he did, or it might have been one of the last things he did, but he was very ill at the time. I mean, he was ill when he retired from the role he was starting for it to be a problem. And so the 3 years that Patrick Troughton was, it had been the decline of it. And so he wasn't going to be able to be on set interacting and walking around and doing stuff. But they figured out a way to incorporate him and having him stuck in a time eddy. And but so he was able to come into the monitor on the TARDIS and give advice to the other two. So it's just a fun story. You got the Brigadier being his pompous British military self, not in a bad way, but just in that way, quite endearing. And I don't know if it was because of Nicholas Courtney, probably, but the Brigadier was always very endearing rather than like, oh, who is this pompous jerk that the Doctor has to listen to? He should be rallying against him instead of helping him and being friends with him. But I think the twinkle in the eye and the sly smile really helped. It wasn't Time Eddy 3, it was Time Eddy 2 that Peter Thorne was there. And I wish I remembered some of the stuff that he said. All I really remember was his signing booth was right next to Davros actor. Shoot, I feel bad now for not remembering his name. Complete blank on it. I'm so sorry, Davros actor. Who was really nice and really sweet. And Peter Thorne was very interesting and very nice gentleman. But I just don't remember going to any of his panels. I don't know if I was working security or what. That was we had bad hotel experience, and we ended up moving like 3 times that Eddie. So, and I think he was the only Third Doctor person there. And he also played the demon Azrael in Aziel in The Demons, because he has this great voice, this very commanding voice. Anyway, so it's great. I highly recommend the Three Doctors. And the nice thing is that they really carry. I mean, William Hartnell wasn't in there, but Pertwee and Troughton, they really carry the show. It's really a show about both of them. They're both very important to it. I mean, Pertwee, since he was the current Doctor, he was a little more had a little more to do, and it was just a fun interaction all around. All of it was great. Yeah. So I watched it on the Blu-ray. I'll switch over here. And this probably would have been, the Three Doctors would have been my first introduction to the other two Doctors. I would have probably not at this time seen any of the first Doctor. Definitely not the first Doctor. Most likely not the second Doctor. And so if you watch him in this, it's just, he's so funny and engaging for a young person to watch. It just makes you want to watch all that other stuff. And it kind of makes me sad that for whatever when in the extra features, the documentary making of, they talk about how Fraser Hines was supposed to be in there. So it would have been really kind of fun to see Jamie and the second Doctor again in a story. But we'll have to wait a couple years for that to happen. A couple regenerations too. Anyway, since I just got this, I haven't watched any of it. I watched the Three Doctors. Disc 1. The Three Doctors. Of the thing. I kind of wish. I understand it. I understand making it as cheap and compact as possible, but I kind of miss the big gatefold sliding open things. I don't have any of those behind me, I believe. And I don't know what the extras are on disc 6. But this is what I watched, the special features on this. This one I watched, back in 2003 or whatever. But the special features on the Blu-ray are the making of the documentary, which was on the DVD. New on the Blu-ray is Behind the Sofa, which was something they started doing with the Blu-rays, and I highly enjoy them. And basically, it's like taking two groups of people, basically, maybe 2 groups of 3 people. And you have people who were involved in the filming, and then you have people who were not involved in the filming, or possibly from the new series, sitting there. And they're just sitting there on the sofa watching the episode with you. I feel like it's a truncated episode, but it might not be. And then, because it only lasts about 45 minutes or so, instead of the 90 minutes or whatever the program is. But this one, they had Katie Manning, which was Joe Grant, Richard Franklin, who was Captain Mike Yates, and John Levine, who was Sergeant Benton. Who were all, Mike wasn't in this story. He didn't make it in this one, but Katie and John were in there. And on the other team, there was Joy Wilkinson, Phil Collinson, and Pete McTeague. Not sure. Didn't look up how to pronounce those. Never do. And I actually am not sure what Joe Wilkinson and Pete do, or how they are related to Doctor Who. I do know that Phil was one of the producers when the Ninth Doctor, when it came back in the early 2000s. And the only thing I remember about this is John Levine's short pants. They like roll up on his sleeve, on his leg, and they're very short. And Phil Collison's crotch, because he sits in the middle of the two, and he's got his legs open spread. So you basically, it's like center barrel, right in the middle there. Crotch. Not that you see anything. Not that it's like disgusting or anything. It's just kind of like, bam, there it is. A documentary called Looking for Lenny Mayne, 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 who directed this, who apparently there was not a whole lot of information about. So Toby Haddock goes looking for more information about him. And I started watching it. I didn't make it through because I was like also trying to do other things while watching the extra features. And I decided that I actually wanted to pay attention to this, sit there and watch it. So I stopped watching it to watch it later and I never got back to it. There's also deleted scenes from the documentary. There's a clean opening and closing titles. I believe there was new titles for this season, or they redid the titles. Is still the same as before, but from season 1 of the third Doctor, but they changed it somehow. I don't know. I don't remember what they did. Been too long. That's also on the DVD. I remember watching it there. Alternative opening and closing titles. BBC Trails in Continuity. Is it Trails or is it Tales? I don't know, but it's like the stuff that maybe Trails. It's the stuff that's after the like. Join us next time on Doctor Who, where the Doctor goes up against Omega, kind of thing. And there's a Blue Peter episode. Didn't get to watch. Nationwide news program, probably all about the 10th anniversary of Doctor Who. BSB 31 Who highlights, which I believe. Actually, I'm not sure. I was like, is that the Doctor Who convention? One of the very early Doctor Who conventions? But I feel like the most infamous one has the 5th Doctor in it because I remember him talking about it. So I don't know what BSB 31 Who highlights is. Sorry, I didn't watch it. I'm sorry. The funny thing is, like the first weekend, I watched the story, and then March has been kind of a little bit crazy, and here it is, the end of the month, and I've only watched partial of the special features. Yeah, I didn't get through that. There's a photo gallery and audio commentary with the producer Barry Letts, Katie Manning, and Nicholas Courtney. They're, both Barry Letts and Nicholas Courtney have unfortunately passed away. A little bit sad there, but it's nice to hear them, that they live on through these things. And an info track, complained about it not being there last time. This time it's on there because they produced it for the DVD. Why wouldn't you throw it on there? So that's the special features on that. I'm almost positive that all the special features on this were on there. Commentary by Katie Manning, Nicholas Courtney, and producer Barry Letts. Pebble Mill at 1, 1972 interviews with Bernard Wilkie and Patrick Troughton. Pebble Mill at 1, 19. Is that the nationwide thing then? I wonder? Question mark. Blue Peter, Jon Pertwee, the Who-mobile, and a retrospective of the first 10 years. I don't remember when the Who-mobile got introduced, but I feel like it's relatively late. Like Invasion of the Dinosaurs. I could be wrong. So that's what the Blue Peter one was. And BSB's 31 Who Weekend interviews with Jon Pertwee, Nicolas Cage, Terrence Dicks, Bob Baker, and Steve Martin. Introduced by John Nathan Turner. So yeah, I think that's exactly what that was. Panopticon 93 30th anniversary panel with Jon Pertwee, Katie Manning, and Nicholas Courtney. Why was that not on the Blu-ray? Did you lose the rights for that? Was it really not that interesting? Offensive? Who knows? I didn't watch him. I'm sorry. Why do you... I just... Thanks for hanging out with me anyway when we talk about the 3rd Doctor. I think that's about all I gotta say about how much I enjoy Jon Pertwee's performance. He gets to come back one more time on the TV. He does record some audio adventures later on. It would have been nice if they had just done... I understand like how you've got the new Doctor, you want to have the new Doctor there, and he's the most important thing. You don't want people thinking about the old Doctors because you got your brand that you're focusing on right now. You don't want people thinking about how great the old Doctors are. Because if they think about how great the old doctors are, he might regenerate back into that old doctor. Isn't that crazy? Sorry. I haven't watched any of the new stuff, so I don't know. They released the Doom trailer or whatever, so maybe I'll talk about that next month. And so he's yeah. If you're gonna watch, I don't know. Yeah, I'm done. I'm winding down. It's been an hour and 15 minutes. Okay, I've met one third Doctor companion, and that would have been Katie Manning, Joe Grant, and it would have actually been during Time Eddie 3, the last Time Eddie. Very nice, very sweet. It was very nice and sweet to the 13-year-old who was then still single digits. Maybe, yeah, still single digits at the time. I think it was 2018. Anyway, so I got one story to tell about Katie Manning, and that is, for some reason, I mean, we decided to go a day early. We were checking into the hotel that the convention was in there. And we were like, oh, well, we're checking in. We're part of the, we were there with, for the Time Eddie 3 convention. And she's like, oh, okay. Can we book in a day early? They're like, oh, okay, that's fine. And they put us in a room on one of the upper floors, which turned out to be the floor that like the guests and staff were on, which, we knew two of the main people from Time Eddie from the first two seasons conventions. So they weren't all like totally. There was a little bit like, why are you on this floor? But there wasn't a we got to get these guys out of here. Anyway, Katie Manning ended up being across the hall from us. If you don't know, which you probably don't, but she has horrible vision. There's a lot of the commentaries talk about how she can't see without her glasses, without the pop bottle glasses, which she doesn't wear most of the time for whatever reason, whatever her choices are. Anyway, we're leaving our room at the same time as she's getting a food delivery. So she like opens the door and she's all like, oh wait, I forgot my money or whatever. She goes back. She's coming back towards, and we open our door, and I kind of getting the family out the door, and I kind of witness this interaction, and she manages to trip while she's walking back to the door, and it's a big trip that I was like, had flashbacks of Jamie running up the steps and my son tripping him that worry. She caught herself. It's just one of those kind of trips. But I was like, another one of those fear thing. Like, oh, I've watching one of my childhood heroes get splatted. But she was fine. Everything was fine. And then she was kind of like laughing about it. It was kind of like, hi. And like, oh, klutzy Katie. And closed the door. Why? She had her food. The interaction was done. But that's my one Katie Manning story. But she was absolutely lovely to my youngest, who was a Cyberman at the time. And even though Joe Grant never met the Cybermen, she big Doctor Who convention person, so she obviously knew who the Cybermen were, and was just very sweet to him. All of the actresses, all of the female companions have been nothing but sweet to the kids that I have seen. I have personally witnessed have been great with the children. But mostly just, I only focus on my child. No. I can only speak of my experience with him. That's the one companion I met. I'm glad it was Joe. Would have been nice to have met Liz, Brigadier Nicholas Courtney. Seems like he would have been really great to have watched and listened to. But of course, Sarah Jane, huge crush on, mostly because of the fourth. That's next month. We'll talk about her next month. Would have been nice to have met Elizabeth Sladen, because I believe Saladin? Sladen. Okay, that's our third Doctor, Jon Pertwee. Third month's carrying on our 60th, and I think we've reached our wow moment, which is exterminate. I'm not a ventriloquist, people. Come on. Exterminate. I don't have batteries in him. Sorry, he's just a shell.
You have not done a Dalek story. You will be trapped in a time eddy, and not a fun time eddy like you've been talking about, but a boring one. And this video will not come out until a month later. A month later.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.